All right, as promised, we said we were going to talk about Occupy Wall Street, that movement. It has spread from Manhattan to towns and cities across America. It is still a mostly leaderless group with a message that is not well defined. Some people say the message is kind of nebulous. They don't know exactly what's going on. So let's talk about it now with Democratic Congressman Charlie Rangel. He joins us from New York. It's happening, shall we say, right in your backyard. You have been there for 3 weeks. 3 weeks without leaving a park in Lower Manhattan. The folks have been there, and you have been visiting them. You've met with them. How long is this going to go on? And as we look at you there in the crowd, what's the message here? Because people are saying they don't have a clear message. Do you get a clear message from these people?
I sure do. Their dreams are being shattered. They may be an inconvenience to a whole lot of people in that area, but people are going to sleep at night with an economic nightmare. This is a very serious emotional, economic, as well as moral issue. And no one's saying anything. They're screaming out. They don't have to know what the solution is, but it's one thing they know, it's something wrong. When so many people are out of work and we find a disparity between the very rich, the middle class moving into poverty, something is wrong. We don't hear from the ministers, the rabbis. We got a bunch of young kids who say, I'm mad as hell, and you're taking away my future.
It's kind of what happened in the 60s, the uprisings. But, you know, there were protests in the 60s. They protested war, and they were, you know, protesting Vietnam and all of that. And it was, of course, the civil rights movement. But let me play devil's advocate here for a moment for people who say, hey, listen, this is a tough economic time. And when it's a tough economic time, you have to find a job where you can. Maybe you may think it's below your pay grade. But if you go to Walmart, if you go to Home Depot, if you go to Starbucks, if you go somewhere, you can get a job rather than being out there protesting. Do something that's going to help you and help the economy.
Well, I wish the president and the economists would hear what you have to say, because they're talking about 15, 16 million people out of work and without hope. They're talking about the minority and the young kids, no place actually to go. I'm trying to put together a job fair, and I can't find employees that are looking for anyone. Listen, everyone knows this has never happened to our nation before. And what makes it really worse is that while those in Washington were trying to come up with answers, we have a group that are more concerned with getting rid of Obama than they are with growing the economy. Everyone knows it, and no one's saying anything. For God's sake, all I can say, Don, is that we should have more and more people protesting. If they want to get an agenda together to say to the Senate, to say to the House, to say to the president, get this jobs bill passed.
Okay.
Don't disturb my health care, my education, and let me get back on with the American dream.
All right, we've heard that. We've heard from the president. He has said, pass this bill. It's been a talking point for the president, a theme that's been repeated over and over. But there are those who say, rather, the best way to protest is through voting. And that's what the Tea Party has done by including themselves, really forcing themselves into the political system and making their voices known. Through their ballots, they have made a difference rather than just taking to the street.
Don, it is true that the Constitution does give voters an opportunity to express themselves in the Senate every 6 years and in the House every 2 years. But poor folks, homeless folks, people without jobs shouldn't have to wait for an election in order to express themselves. If my constituents were annoyed with me because of votes I'm not taking or should be taken, are you suggesting that they have to wait until next year? No. I think the misery and the pain that we're going through as a nation, but more importantly, the loss of self-esteem, the fact that our schools aren't working, requires people to do something now. Suppose we were talking about the civil rights movement. I know nobody, and I know you're a devil's advocate, would say you can get those rascals during an election. No, election is one way to do it. Another way is pull us out and shoot us, which they do it in some countries. But the best way is to bring your grievance to the people. And if it inconveniences someone, then, hey, that's what the Constitution is all about. I just want more of our spiritual leaders to join in.
I'm glad you said that. I'm going to take a little bit more time. I'm telling the producer, so sorry about that. And I'm glad you realize it's just devil's advocate, because when I have to ask the question as a journalist, and people go, oh my gosh, I can't believe you said that. So here's the thing. I was speaking, when you said our religious leaders, I spoke with Reverend Joseph Lowry today, and he said this reminded him of the 1960s when people were fed up. So I think maybe the religious leaders may be coming on board, at least when what Reverend Lowry says, who's now celebrating his 90th birthday, by the way.
I know, he's a great guy, and I saw the interview. It was really great. But let me make it clear. They're out there. If you're talking about same-sex marriage and you're talking about abortion, you cannot stop hearing from the religious community. And so there's no moral reason why they have to wait for something to catch on. All of this is in the Bible. It's about the disadvantaged. It's about those that are vulnerable, about the poor, about the sick, about the old. What's missing in this scripture except the spiritual leaders?
All right. Charlie Rangel, thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming on a Saturday when you got all those people in your city there today. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Make sure you stay with us here on CNN, because we're going to be reporting more on the Occupy Wall Street protest coming up at 7 p.m. Eastern. We're going to speak with one of the organizers. His name is Tyler Kumbelik, and we'll ask him to explain the goal of the demonstrations.